Welcome back, everybody, to LARPs and TARPs and to the final installment of our Barbarians series. This week, we're talking about everyone's favorite barbarian, or at least the most common barbarian I've been, the Jotun.
It's the only barbarian you've been.
Yeah, this is very true. I'm joined with my co-host, Tom.
Hi there.
And then we have two very special guests in our multi-million-pound studio. Tam and Tyrell, say hi, guys.
Hello. How are you doing?
Good. Are you enjoying the chairs? It's a nice atmosphere. We'll get some drinks round.
Oh yeah, I forget you don't do video. We can tell. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really nice. I mean, like I asked for sparkling water earlier and they gave me still.
Oh no.
Shit. Right. Okay.
Alex, what are you doing?
We'll get right on that.
Would you like caviar?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the whiskey and the cigars, because that's what they got on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah, no, of course. It's really funny. Dave said exactly the same thing from the LARP Noobs, so it's something we definitely need to implement.
We're working with divas here, Morgan. We need to up our game.
I was gonna say we need to. What's it called when they you have weird requests when you're a celebrity?
Oh,
being a prick.
Yeah,
that's one. I guess
like,
being like.
It's like
there's
like
thing. Or something.
Yeah, something like this. When you ask for there's you always have to make one weird request. Like I want a bowl of M&Ms, but no yellow ones. You know what I'm saying? No, this is
no. Like there's a word for it. There's
we're just feeling called out. I think.
Yeah.
It's like we do that all the time. What are you talking about?
That's a weird request.
I thought isn't that just what everyone wants? I thought the yellow ones were there to be thrown away.
Ew, who eats the yellow ones?
As we've kind of covered with all the other ones, we wanted to talk a bit more about the orcs as a whole, because I feel like at least definitely your first event, and I feel to be fair, a lot of people is the only interaction people really have with the barbarians is it's Saturday/Sunday, time to go hit some people in a latex mask. But it's good to kind of give a bit more depth to who they are and kind of what they're about.
And why they hate us.
Well, they hate us because we're objectively bad people.
Well, yeah, I know the reason for the Jotun is because
go on.
They're the good guys. I mean, they're just a better nation all in all. I think.
No, yeah, definitely 100% above. But they are. I think who is it? I think it's the guy that leads the battles for the orcs. What's he called?
Was it Andy Connell?
Andy Connell, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was saying, I remember we were doing a brief, and he was like, "Welcome to the Jotun, the only good people in this setting."
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like if I were to play, honestly, if I were to play like a TTRPG set in Empire, I think I would prefer to play as a Jotun because I could feel like I was actually a good guy.
But it's complicated though, right? So I guess the big thing with the Jotun is that they are like the thing you're kind of briefed on is they're honorable, right? So you've got like the skeevy Druze, you've got the drug cartel Grendel, you've got
the magical fuel,
your magical hierarchical slavers of the Thule, and then you've got the Jotun who are like, yeah, honor seems to be their big thing, right?
Well, yeah, they have an honor society, but that's the thing. They're not. It's because it's kind of looked through the lens of the Empire, I guess, and we call them barbarians. But
yeah.
They're not slavers. They're pretty well organized.
They're diet slavers.
Slavers light.
They have oh yeah, you're a prisoner and you will fight for us, or you will be a prisoner for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
or you can die.
Yeah, you do have the choice though. You can either go either live under our rule or die. But it doesn't seem so bad,
Yeah, we definitely would thrall. Yeah. Like if gave me the option, I'll do it. I'm down.
I don't know. I don't know if my character would ever. I can't see Godric being like, oh no, I think he would probably choose death then.
Yeah, yeah.
I think because there's no real scope. I don't think PD don't really give you a scope if you've been left behind, and then go, oh, can I somehow be a thrall and then escape and then make my way back to the Empire.
Yeah.
I guess there's no real scope for that.
Maybe no one's ever tried it.
Maybe you should be the first one to try it, Oliver. You be the little Dornish to run.
Yeah, Godric gets captured by the Jotun and swears his loyalty, but it's all a ruse. He's going to dismantle the Jotun nation inside.
Brilliant.
I like, to be fair, I like imagine like the situation, right? So like the thing is with Empire is you get teleported to where you go. You end up fucking west of the Mournwald, right? And then the Sentinel Gate closes, and you're like, cool. Now I've got to get home somehow. But no, I actually think that would be really interesting. Like, hey, I did just get left behind, but if can we do a cheeky little outlook? I won't, obviously, for the rest of this event, I can't be here because I am thousands of miles away.
So I think mechanically, in a lot of circumstances, obviously, if you're shut off from the Sentinel Gate, they go, "Oh yeah, well, people don't really know," but mechanically, they're like, "Your character's dead." You know, they don't tend to give you a chance to be like, "Well, you know, I'm here." We spoke to someone, I can't remember who it was, about taking money through the Sentinel Gate, and people go, "Oh yeah, people," because I think, it was Liam. He was going, "Oh, I want to sell potions," but I was like, "Well, you should do it at the Sentinel Gate." And he's like, well, a lot of people don't bring money to the Sentinel Gate. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that mechanically, because if you get left out there, then all your money is gone. But really, in an actual roleplay sense, why wouldn't you take money with you if you're going to get teleported across the Empire and you might get left behind? You'd want some cash on you to try and get back, sure.
You make a good point.
It's mechanics versus the reality of the situation in the game, unfortunately.
I'm not doing it. I'm not going to take all my money.
You're noble anyway now. You could have somebody else bring your money or bring money for you, you know, just in case something happens and you need something. Because, it's that sort of like meta thing of like, well, I'm not going to take money because if my character dies and gets looted, I'm screwed. But, you know...
I've definitely been tempted. The one time I have bought a potion at Sentinel Gate was off our like friend Kerry, and she was like, "Pay me when you get back." But I feel like a fair enough deal to make at the Sentinel Gate with someone is like, "I'll give you my name and I'll pay you double if you give me it now." Because it's like, because I'm not, like you say, I'm not bringing cash with me to the battlefield. I suppose from the argument of I don't want it to go to the Barbarians and I'd rather my family have it. But now I'm going to be thinking maybe I should. Maybe you're going to be the reason why I've lost all my money on the battlefield now.
You don't have any money. You're 12 thrones in debt.
I am 10 thrones in debt. It's not a big deal.
How are you 10 thrones in debt?
Gambling mostly. So at the Little Mother's Ball,
height of culture.
I went to the league, very skeevy. I ended up 10 thrones in debt, and we were playing a dice game. Called Sword and Shield. I won't explain the mechanics, but basically the way it works is there's one winner. And we were playing a game with 3 players, and the house also gets a cut, basically. And we were paying money. You know, we were paying rings. Well, we started off with crowns. Then people were like, "Can we move to rings?" So we moved to rings. And then someone who was, I think, been to like 1 or 2 events was like, "I've run out of rings," and then they pull a ring off their finger, and I was like, okay. I'm in. I pulled my ring off my finger. I was like, so these rings now represent a favor.
It wasn't our friendship ring.
No, it wasn't our friendship ring. No, of course not. I would never.
I was going to say, this is a league event.
Yeah, it was my formerly magical flower ring, which is now on the hands of some skeevy leaguer. We threw our rings in the middle, and we're playing this game. And essentially, I have to make a choice. And the house, the leaguer who now has my ring, made a recommendation for me. It was a stupid recommendation, and I lost because of it. And I said as such at the end. He goes, right, well, I get to pick one of these favors, and I'm taking yours. I was like, oh, Christ. So now I owe this guy a favor. And then he goes, I'll give you the opportunity to buy it back. Now, you guys know this. I'm playing a changeling. So naturally, I say, oh, I couldn't afford it. I'm worth too much. And he goes, oh, well, how much do you think you're worth? I said, I couldn't possibly say. And he was like, go on, how much? And I went, 10 thrones. He went, cool. You owe me 10 thrones or you owe me a favor by the end of the year. So I am 10 thrones in debt, kind of, or I owe this guy a favor. Not quite sure which is worse. I feel like the favor might be worse.
If it's a leaguer, I don't know. I think the debt is probably worse.
Yeah, but just no. All that happens.
He was not great with a leaguer, to be fair.
All that happens if I default on the debt is that I owe him a favor. So it's like I'm in no worse situation being able to give him 10 thrones.
Well, maybe you are. Maybe he's got a favor in mind and he was going to use that. But if you owe him a debt and being in the league, that's pretty important. If you then fail that, he's maybe going to change to what his favor was even going to originally be, to something a bit more extreme.
Yes, his favor might be make me 20 thrones. Yeah.
Oh, I hope that's what it is.
Don't give him ideas.
You're gonna be
Do you ever find yourself behind the controls of your character, looking at them, and you're like, I know which. It's almost like you're playing a video game, and you see the dialogue options come up, and you're like, none of these make sense. None of these are intelligent choices. And I'm looking at them as Morgan sitting behind Tristan's controls, going, "Well, this is where we find ourselves, I suppose."
So no going back to an autosave.
That's how I play my life. Never mind love.
You're going to
make sense.
You're going to become a huge bite mule.
Yo, Christ.
It's going to be great.
At least they'll have some bite.
Anyway, I'm going to bring it back to Jotun. I'm going to be that guy.
Yeah, Christ.
Jotun. One thing I do...
Or Jotun, or Jotun.
I say Jotun.
Yeah, I say Jotun. Jotun feels better because they don't say Jotun. They say Jotun. You know,
One thing I found very interesting about the thrall system, though, is you can leave being a thrall whenever you want, providing you fight for the Jotun. So if you become one of their army or one of their fighters, you're not a thrall anymore.
Yeah. So your choice is death, be a prisoner, or fight for them, basically. And I because they're born to war, right? That's their whole thing. They're a super militaristic society. I think that's why they're a problem for us, because they're all about expansion.
But they're about expansion, but they're not really. They're not materialistic either. Like they're not like lavish like the
Grendel.
The Grendel, yeah, exactly. You know, so it's so a lot of them are literally just given a sword. They're pretty much they are. I think they're supposed to be the kind of barbarian versions of the winter markers, like the Steinair and things, right? Because they're all about they're all about like honor and honoring your ancestors, and having an honorable death is how you get it's
over the Howling Abyss.
It's like Valhalla, right? They're more Vikings than even the winter markers are, which totally are Vikings. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, definitely not. No, because because that's their whole. I think that's what's interesting is that we have. I think the way religion works in the setting is really interesting because it's not like people disagree on what happens after you die. Mostly, it's like humans go to the labyrinth, orcs go to the Howling Abyss. It's more kind of a nuance on that, and then for the orcs, it tends to be like, well, what makes it easier to get over the Howling Abyss? Imperial orcs would say it's being virtuous, but the Jotun are, like you say, dying in a not glorious, honourable, great combat, I suppose.
Well, the thing is, it is glorious. I think they avoid it so that it doesn't clash with the Dornish brief a bit, but it is that they're way more like because they've taken the the chivalry and the honor code out of Dawn to make it different from medieval European knights and maybe like Arthurian fantasy, but you can actually find that in the Jotun, and they have this honor code, and they're all about respect and things like this. So that's why I'm like, oh, they're the actual good guys.
Well, what I really liked about one of the briefs that we got was when because obviously before we go into Monster, we get these briefs, and they came in saying, do not insult our enemy, do not belittle their fighting ability, because if you are seeing them as weak, then they are not worthy of a fight with you, and therefore you're dishonoring yourself. They have to be worthy to fight you. And I was like, that's really cool, actually, and I liked embodying that.
Yeah, I think that is really interesting. I think it's I think that's why I like that they have the brief, and it's like they give you as much information as possible, because it's good to give a bit of life to what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, when we're fighting the orcs, we want them to be who we're fighting. We don't just want them to be, our friends in a mask. We want them to be.
Yeah, I think that's obviously. I understand why they call them barbarians, because it's like I said, it's seen through the lens of the empire, and be like, oh yeah, they practice barbarism and they need to be destroyed. But that can give you maybe a little bit of a false impression when you first ever show up to Empire, and like, oh yeah, we get to Monster, play barbarians, and then everyone runs on the field and they just act barbarous. They're just like and screaming and being suicidal, and it's like No, like it's way better if you see it from the brief. And I understand that they've got thousands of people to bring in onto that field. Some people never having monster before at all and being like, oh yeah, come in. What oh, you're a skirmisher, go that way, and they give you a short brief. So you're not going to get a full on right. This is an education about the Jotun. But I always say to people now, having done it, like having done the monstering like 4 times, it's way more fun if you have that brief in mind instead of just being like, I'm just going to be suicidal and try and kill my friends, type thing.
Yeah. I'm glad I haven't seen too many football hooligan Warhammer orcs or really dodgy Lord of the Rings orc Jotun. No. Druge, that seems fine, but Jotun, they're not going to poke maggot holes in you.
I think with the again, what's like you say, fun about it's just having that, like you say, that system just kind of brings a lot more life to it. And then like you say, you will enjoy it more as a monster. I almost do enjoy though the fact that people come to, I think from a non-monstering side of things, I almost enjoy that people come to Anvil seeing the barbarians and then being, oh, okay, so you almost come with almost like that, someone who's never been in the political scene, someone who's not done much, is like fresh to Anvil, of having that very simple mentality of like barbarians, imperials, foreigners, they're the 3 categories. And then you would think, oh, they're the bad guys. But then the more you're at Empire and Anvil, you're like, there's a bit of nuance to this. They're not quite everything that I thought they were. But
well, yeah, and I mean that's because the game is just highly political. It's not like Lord of the Rings, where it is just like there is evil and there is good, and evil is trying to take over, and everyone's on the scale of like slipping from good to evil, and it's just that's black and white. But when you're playing a political game, or when you see like a political driven story like Game of Thrones, it can't be this person's bad, this person's good. It has to just through the mechanics of just it being a political story, you're going to have to be like, oh, is this the right thing? Because like you mentioned foreigners there. The reason the foreigners aren't barbarians is because we're not at war with them. We haven't started calling them barbarians. That's
exactly. Well, because now the Assaveans are barbarians. The Thule are technically foreigners, right? So it's kind of, again, it's that fun thing where it's like they're not technically. I think it's a really funny way of, if you think of it in like a real, like if you think about it for a second, like having a political system where you're like, it's like goes, I can't even think. Like if we looked back at World War II and we had like, we had the barbarians and then we had the foreigners. It's kind of like if you break it in a real world thing, it sounds a bit funny.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that. Oh yeah, that it's only because we're looking at that they are barbarians, but I mean they are like the Jotun are a little bit. They are barbarous, right? They are a little bit barbarous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just a little bit of barbarism.
Yeah.
But I do love the Jotun aesthetic, the heavy armor, the big halberds or spears. You can really feel like you're a heavy, unified marching block when you're going out with them.
Yeah.
As I say, I can't compare it to anything because out of all 4 empires I've been to, I've only ever been able to monster the Jotun.
Yeah, well, same with. Well, I'm saying that we haven't really. I've always been like Yagara. Right, so
we should probably take a moment to explain that, I guess, because that's something good for people to know if you've not been to Empire. That when people are fighting as a Jotun, and this is kind of a symptom of COVID, right? So the idea, they used to kind of sanitize the orc masks and everyone would be an orc in either day, but now because there's not enough to go around everyone, they kind of break it up a little bit. So you have when you're fighting as a Jotun, you can either be Jotun, so you can be an orc, or you can be Yagara, who are basically, as far as I understand it, marching marchers. Like they're kind of like a subsect of the marchers who have joined with the Jotun, right?
Marcher Extreme.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of different types. There's the Winterfolk, sort of kind of old winter marker people, Yagara as well. So that they, excuse me. So they have like the wintry ones, and then they have the marchery ones, basically.
Yeah.
But I think that it's not just a case of it's this is how it explained to me anyway. It's not that they're just old marchers that like the Jotun. They've been separated from marcher culture for quite a while, and you're not, when you're playing Yagara, you're not. You're under the rule of the Jotun, but it's a bit like being a citizen of the Empire under the rule of the Empire and the Way. So you love being part of that. You think the Jotun way of life is awesome.
That's the
Uh,
thing, yeah. Like you're seeing the Imperials as the bad guys. You're seeing them as the ones that are in the wrong. What they are doing is not right to you as a Yugara following the Jotun rule and leadership. And I think that's quite cool. Like when again, same as the rest of you. I mean, I've only actually played on that sort of side of it when we've been monstering, and only played as a Yugara. So I always like to sort of create this sort of character in mind of why am I there? Why do I care so much about this? And why is my character not just running in and, for no apparent reason and
Jumping on
then
the
dying?
Imperial spears, yeah.
Leroy Jenkins.
So you actually, before we start recording, you were talking about one of your Yagara characters, and I'd love to hear more about them.
Yeah, I created a Yugara character called Rosie, and Rosie was taken in by the Jotun at a very young age. She doesn't know anything other than the Jotun, and she grew up there around them. They are her friends, they're her family, and they're who she cares deeply about. But she has heard horrible stories about the Imperials and their way of life, and she thinks it's crazy the way they live and it's barbaric. So she is very passionate about the Jotun and will do what she can, but she will always offer every Imperial the chance to come with her. She never goes in and just aimlessly kills, and she will offer Imperials the chance, come with me. The way of the Jotun is better and I can help you. And she does that to every Imperial that she fights.
I really like that. I think that's really cool.
It's not like you when you were a Yugara and just beat the shit out of a poor innocent winter marker.
Oh.
I mean, they were asking for it that time.
It's too easy to be honest.
Well, this was so we were Yagara. This was before I got my orc mask, so I was Yagaring. This was E2, and our unit was to kind of run around and hassle people to make them move, to kind of move them to the right place and position them. So we weren't really meant to hurt anyone. We were just supposed to spook them. And we all huddled up, having a breathe, having some water, having a chat about what we were going to do next. And then someone runs up to us, a winter marker, going, "Help, help, Imperials are falling on the front, we need your help." And we turned and we just all looked to them and went, "Are you Imperial?" And they went, "Yeah."
Uh-oh.
And we went, "We're not." And then just like a swarm, just like, and then we just looked at it. And then you kind of, it's really funny. Like, it feels like the wrong word, but the bloodlust you get sometimes as a monster. To be like, yeah, kill it. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, Jesus, that was someone's character. But like, they were literally behind enemy lines and ran up to a bunch of clearly humans. And they were just obviously panicked. And then that was just the end of their character.
I like how you're referring to the Yagara as monsters.
Well, we were monstering,
Yeah, that's the thing, because we haven't. It's just because like we're in Dawn and we've just always been fighting the Jotun, and just the way it's worked out on fighting the Druge, and the way it's just worked out on the days. We've always been Yugara not having to wear masks, and we've always been fighting people wearing masks, so there hasn't been that confusion. Maybe having but even honestly, even the Imperial Orcs, even though they do get a bit of I know some of them do get a lot of friendly fire, but when we were fighting alongside them, their kit is so distinctive.
You can tell. Like, they've put a lot more. You get some like members of the EMU put a lot of effort. So I was talking to we were talking to a guy after Little Mothers who made like I think it was the pandemic, made like a bunch of war skirts for the whole EMU. So you get some like really cool kit. But like you say, usually the most blinged out ones, they're Imperial.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like the main thing that really stands out with your Imperial Orcs, and this is what Kelly was speaking to us about, is the fact that the Imperial Orcs are the ones that will wear coverings and wraps over their wrists. Is it over their necks as well?
Yes, because it's to hide the shack where they have the shackles.
Yeah, because this is where even though some of them now they were never enslaved, it's to show that respect to their ancestry that they wear these wraps, these bands, to symbolize where they would have had these shackles. And you'll never see somebody who's not an Imperial Orc wearing that. So that's usually that real telltale sign if you're fighting alongside the Imperial Orcs. and you are confused, if they've got wraps over their wrists or their necks, they're most likely Imperial orcs.
I think that's actually a really cool way, because the other thing obviously is that the Jotun have a distinct look as well. So you kind of things to look out for. So the Jotun wear a lot of red, like furs, war skirts, but that's also actually really useful to know when I'm looking. Usually I just go for who's got the most bling.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a really useful
because
reference.
the Imperial orcs will, like, if you accidentally hit them, they will have a go at you and being like, "Can you not see my wraps?"
Oh no!
And they will give you a history lesson right there on the battlefield. So.
It's like,
And you will
Oh
listen.
my God. Yes. I think
So you guys have only played as Yagara. Have you never been tempted to take up the EMU mantle at all?
You know, right. So you know what I like. Obviously, it's a quite a pricey hobby getting into this, right? And I was like,
what?
at some
No,
point-
the LARP's so cheap. What are you talking about, Oliver?
at some point,
You sleeping on your piles of money.
at some point, I would like to get a mask and do the monstering. I thought at E1. At E1, I was wearing like my heavy chainmail. I'm not used to wearing chainmail. I went, all right, we're going out to Monster. Oh, I guess I'll just put all my armor on. So I just put my chainmail on. And we were skirmishing in the woods, and there was nothing happening. So it was kind of hot. This was like E1 as well.
Yeah.
And it was actually warm. Like, it was actually warm under those trees on whatever day it was. I'm pretty sure it was the Sunday we were monstering.
It was.
We were basically just like harassing these Imperials at that choke point at the breach, but nothing really was happening, and we just kept walking backwards and forwards. And I was just suffering in my armor. And so the next time we went, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go in like my shirt and trousers, and it was like a fun little holiday. And I was like, this
I
is
get that.
great because I'm wearing my armor like as my character, and that's hard going. You know, I'm not gonna if I can have 3 hours of just like, it doesn't matter if I'm not heavily armored, and it's fine. I'm just gonna go out there. Yeah, Robin's had one or two characters, one called Rosie. I've had about 12 Yagara characters.
Oh wow, yeah.
Because my sole purpose after E1, my sole purpose then was just to die for the Imperials and make them have a good time. That's my sole purpose when I monster now. So
I like that. I think what I like about the EMU, though, so far, it's spiced up the Jotun game a bit for me. I'm not just a random Moog charging in. We've got kind of objectives, and you have like a solid squad. You've got the same people turning up each time. And you get early access to masks, and they give you a poly breastplate, so you do have the extra hit points.
You get poly breastplates if you do Yagara as well.
If there's some like, do you?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I've never been Yagara. I've always suffered the orc mask.
Yeah, no, we did. So E4 was my first EMU because I bought an orc mask that weekend. And I think again, I feel the kind of, oh Christ, I got to wear this again. But what I end up doing is because again, I wore, instead of wearing like my gambas and stuff, I have like just a padded collar. So it's just for one little fight. I put a padded collar and chainmail and a belt. And then I'll just have that because it's not got all the. I've not then got my thick gambeson and then a surcoat and then all my Dornish crap on top. It's just like chainmail and then I'll cope.
It might change this year because I have a second gambeson now. Like my old gambeson from last year, I could probably wear that because that's the thing with you've worn a gambeson before. It becomes like a little microclimate in there, and the worst thing ever is like taking it off and then going, I've got to put it back on. I've got to put this damp gambeson back on to monster, and then you've monstered, and you've got this damp gambeson. You're like, I'm going to have to put it back on as my character now for the rest of the day. So I think eventually I might try it. Also,
join us.
Fitness. I'm not getting any younger either. Like fitness wise, like I think, doing a heavy monster battle where I'm running around and doing another one as my character, running around. Because I think that's the main reason why is because my character is like heavily armored and does a lot of running around and very energetic on the battlefield. So it's So I don't know. I just like the monster battle to be having like a little.
I think that's absolutely valid. I think it's really interesting as well. Talk about. I think so. Doing role play as a monster is something I want to do a little bit more because I think it's about you guys, but my Facebook after an event is often full of like people's different like Empire fics and stuff like fiction they've written like in between events. And I think one that I don't know if I know they listen. So, but there was one they put up was like from the perspective of their Jotun, which was one of the ones that was maybe the most like it was like really quite emotional, and it was talking about this person was playing a Jotun, and they went up to like an Imperial that was bleeding out. And the whole thing was like they went up to them. It was like the war front had kind of moved. And there was just this one person bleeding out, and they said to him, "Does your way give you hope, Imperial?" And the Imperial just kind of looks up and starts crying and says, "I wish I'd done more with my life." And then there's just, again, that kind of like beautiful RP on the field between like and the person, I think the person who did the fic kind of put the bottom, it's like, thanks to this Imperial that gave me like a big emotional hit, like in the middle of monstering. I was like, that's really cool. And it's made me kind of like, I want to know more about how the Yagara, for example, see religion, like what do they follow and how are they? So like you can role play that a bit more. But now I'm doing more Jotun, having that kind of like, you know what, you don't hate these people. They're just misguided. And you can having that kind of that moment of, and I thought that was really beautiful. And it's encouraged me to like maybe try and role play a little bit more. I thought it was really nice.
Well, that's the good thing about having like obviously we're doing a lot fighting the Jotun and the Druge, and that's the good thing about having them being different in that way, is it gives you that just different flavor, because if like when we're talking about the Druge is exactly the opposite of everything you were talking about just there. Like they were just like, oh, you're down on the ground, venom, bye.
Exactly. There's some venom in your face.
I'm pretty sure.
What's your bleed count? Oh, I've got about 2 minutes left.
Oh, it's 30
never mind.
seconds.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I don't know if you.
Go on.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think the Druge will look at Imperials and be like, oh yeah, they're just misguided. I think they want to kill us and or rule us, and destroy everything we have. And
the Druge are very much like by any means necessary is their whole thing.
Well, I was quite entertained by what Andy Raff said. Now the Empire's done some atrocious things. The Druge are kind of trying to respect us a bit more. They're kind of like, I like the cut of your jib.
Yeah, you guys have done war crimes too. Yeah, like it.
Bad guys, told you.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's the. I remember that was like you just hear silly people. It's like whoever's been at Empire for like more than 2 events. Like, oh, we're definitely. I've read some spicy accounts from Druge about what the Imperials did like 100 years ago that I won't repeat here because definitely found out in play. But like you read it, like we have been. Like I was like, is it just because the player base are bad people? And then I'm like, actually no, the Imperials have been horrifying for a long time.
Yeah. I blame Highguard.
I blame Highguard. Everything is Highguard's fault.
Maybe
I got a win
the
tomorrow.
Jotun are right.
Maybe.
Should we all just change now?
I'm running for throne on the platform of maybe we should all be Jotun, and I think that's a pretty good step.
Yeah.
Burn you for heresy right now.
And so even look at E4, not E4, sorry, E3, when it went
battle.
bad, and it was bad. Oh, it was
Really
bad.
bad.
Okay, I was in the thick of it. It was
we always
was
bring this event up.
really
but
bad.
it's important that it was the Jotun that we were playing though, right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously we got as Jotun and Yagara, we ended up with the Imperials in that beautiful donut, and I was there, and I was next to Andy Connell there, and he was like he told us all to step backwards, and he was like, right, if everybody take a few steps back, we've got an opening so they can go out. No one took it. Like none of the Imperials saw this opening. We're like, do we just keep going then? And then obviously we had that truce where, they spoke, and as Jotun and Yagara, we all respected that, and we stepped back and let them walk out. I'm sorry, if that were Druge, they'd all be dead.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
They'd be chucking poison in the middle, a bit of venom, in the middle of that donut.
Just that guy with the sensor.
Just running around, swinging it over his head. You're all done.
I mean, I did wonder that, because that was obviously I think obviously there must have been a little bit of health and safety, but at the same time, it was a little bit of a let's help the players out here, because it's just going to be an entire like multi-nation massacre. So I did wonder. I was like, what if that was the Druge? How would they justify it?
It's a nightmare scenario to have to navigate. I feel like either you kind of go like, what we're gonna do is that this is a tour for a safety. Again, I'm not battle safety. I don't know how but it's even like, hey, if you get reduced to 0 hits, come out of the donut, lie on the floor. and then you kind of like you could reduce the donut down and down and down, and just the pile of corpses kind of outside of it. Because I can understand like you don't want people dropping to the ground because that's, like you said, that's going to be actual out of character injury. But being like, you're on 0 hits, get out, keep going.
I've not spoken to anyone who was actually inside that donut, and I kind of want to get their view of what actually happened, because honestly,
Blackness,
it
probably.
was
Panic.
it was Game of Thrones Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah,
Is what I was watching.
It's the Battle of the Bastards.
Can you imagine being the person in the middle of that, like at the very center, be like, what is actually happening? Like, I'm just here with my massive fucking shield and my sword. Like, where are we? Is this it?
I'd hate to be in the middle of that. I'm a short guy. I'd just be terrified of being crushed by someone 6 foot.
The only experience I've had of that is when we did the new player skirmish at E1.
Yeah.
And
It's
they-
terrifying.
Yeah, they forcibly put us in that position where we're like, right, okay, these are the bad situations you're going to be in. It's either the donut or the fighting retreat. And we were like in the donut when we demonstrated the donut, and that was also my first ever like proper LARP combat experience as well. So I was like,
I fell on a
oh.
guy. I was like, sorry.
It's a good one to start people off with. I'm glad they do it.
I feel like everyone I speak to, that I think I spoke to you guys about this, and we've definitely spoken to our friends who did that same, like that new player brief. It's like you go and you're like, oh, I hope combat's fun, it'd be interesting. And then after the new player brief, everyone comes off like, this is the best thing I've ever done, and I cannot wait to do it again. Like that kind of like fighting, like, yeah, this was awesome.
I think I'm going to do the new player brief this year just to refresh.
Yeah, I do need a refresh, to be fair.
yeah, I'm someone who talks about this a lot. I think that some sort of brief, any sort of brief, should be mandatory for players every year. When we were speaking to Jess about Lorien Trust, they do have like you have to go get your archery certificate. I don't know if it's certificate, but yeah, you have to go do something to be like, oh yeah, I can safely fire an arrow, or I can safely use a weapon or something. I know that at Empire they do have lots going on the Friday you can go to, but you don't have to go to any of that, And yeah, it might be a little bit tedious for people that's been going for a long time, but even if they just went, okay, if you go to one, then that's you good for the year, and all they maybe need to sit through is just like, okay, this is the code of conduct, around about, these are the people you need to go speak to if you want to speak about that. These are this is how you need to go and pull your blows, by the way, because you could rock up to Amble with a weapon that will pass weapon check, and you don't have to have anyone tell you, by the way, you need to pull a blow. So,
admittedly, I need to practice that. Me, Morgan, and Kerry were fighting in the travel lodge, and I might have forgot to pull my blows there. Practice fight.
Yeah.
What an unpulled blow amongst friends.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously it happens, but the fact that you can just go in and no one has ever told you, you could literally just rock up and someone go, oh, we're going to this thing the weekend. Cool. Okay, I'll buy you a ticket. Awesome. You need to make an account. Or, oh yeah, here's a weapon.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to go fighting now, and there's nothing there that says you have to be told.
It would be
by the
easy
way, you
enough.
pull blows here.
It would be easy enough to do something at the monstering briefing, right? Like when you're getting monstering done, like there's no like an out of character, because that's basically all fully out of character. Be like, right, monsters, remember this, that, don't do this, don't do that, and then.
Yeah.
But then I guess like you say, it's wrangling the other half of the Empire on the first day when it's like you're in character fighting, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean that
tough.
like what you were saying, Oliver, like having that sort of thing where maybe 1 out of the 4 events you've got to attend this specific briefing, because again, even if you have been going for years and years and years, it's a good opportunity to make sure everybody has heard any updates on rules. For example, the recent update on the archery safety rules, it means that everybody's been able to actually, they've ticked off, yep, they understand the new update, they're able to ask questions and so on. And I mean, the monstering, like you said, we get like the monstering briefs, which I had an amazing first experience. My first monster brief was brilliant. I had this woman who was in charge of our one, and she basically saw that I was a new player and looked after me, and it was amazing. I haven't had a brief as well as that since that point, but I just remembered everything that she told me when I was monstering at the start. But yeah, it does make a difference.
I think for anyone listening,
Pull your blows.
Yeah.
Don't remember that there is, remember that you're, even if you're under a mask, that's not a free license to just be an absolute douchebag. And also, if you're a hero rather than a barbarian, remember that there is someone beneath that mask.
Yeah.
Like, because people go. I remember once. I don't know where you guys were at E1. There was someone. I won't name the nation or the person, but someone. There was kind of like this line. And then I saw it happening. Someone got their sword and brought it down on someone's shield. Luckily, who got the shield up. And there was like a crack that you heard like across the field. And it all just stopped. And you heard a few people go, and then that person got escorted up the field. It's like if that person hadn't had that shield there, that could have gone horribly.
Yeah.
It's crazy how stuff like that can happen.
Yeah, because it's difficult because it's not exact math, is it? You know, it's not a case of going, oh, this is exactly how hard you need to hit, because the thing is, like, you don't require any training. Like a lot of us aren't playing with these LARP weapons every single weekend. You know, it might be like 3 or 4 times a year, and then someone hands you like a pole arm, and then you've got to then account for that leverage and things like that. Or I mean, someone we monster.e2, Robin, and they were like, oh, we're gonna have a little practice of how to skirmish, and someone was just like, oh, I've just bought this hammer, I like it, and just went whoosh, and like it just always took Robin off her feet.
It was an axe. It was a brand new axe. The player had never used an axe before, and he went, oh, here we go, and he whacked my lower leg so hard. Like, that was one of the hardest hits I'd ever taken. I was like, what the hell was that?
It's
And I
it
was
was
like
just a long weapon, right? And obviously it's heavy at the end, you know? So
I think the advice I was given for one-handed weapons is that your thumb and your forefinger, right, can put like a lot of weight, so hold it like that, but your other 3 fingers should be just supporting it. And if you try to hit quite hard with just your thumb and forefinger as like the grip, it's actually quite hard to deal like a hard blow, but you're using your lower 3 to kind of guide it. So you have the kind of target, but you can't put a wallop in, even if you get a bit carried away, which has been really useful for me. Because again, we've all been there. When your adrenaline's pumping and you've got a sword, you like get real excited. But
the other thing as well is because we're working on like hit points, like global hits, and there's armor involved as well, and hero calls. So, well, just any call, right? So you want to make sure that the person you're hitting knows that you've hit them. You know, sometimes subconsciously you're just like, this is, I'm like, right, I want this person to know I've hit them, or I want them to know that I've just cleaved them, you know? So yeah, sometimes you do go, you see especially if you're like fighting a heavily armored enemy and they've got a shield up and they've got, you know, a spear and they're just about to strike you down, and you see your opportunity and you're just like, I got you know, and you'll just like, you will just get overexcited and just be like, oh, ding, you know, and you want to make sure that you know that you've got them, especially if you've got rows and rows of people and they're concentrating on you, they're concentrating on the person next to you, the people behind them, and they've looked away and you're like, got you, you know, and then you've hit them so light they didn't even know that you hit them. So I think people have to kind of try and pass around that as well, which is tricky, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I think I tell you what's, you were talking about, again, to try and bring it back to Jotuning, I guess.
It's so easy to get.
What's the topic today? No, is the fun little section on the wiki where it talks about trying to make your kit more, like, to try and adapt your kit to monster, right? And I think as Dornish, we're in pretty good position for that because they're heavy armor, they favor chainmail. They do like an axe, which I don't think is the most Dornish thing, but at least we have the armor down. You're in the league and you have a massive pole arm.
League's multiple colour, so I lucky because I went all red and black, so that suits the Jotun perfectly. But a lot of the league have halberds, so luckily we had that looking character. But annoyingly, halberds don't seem to get many calls with Jotun. Like, I'd love to have a strike down or impale. All I can do is poke. But spears, incidentally, do get impale or strike down and something like that. So it's a bit funny. I would always picture Jotun to have halberds, but it doesn't seem that they're particularly on brief. But luckily for the league, we do have a lot of pointy sticks because we like to keep people at a distance because there's so few of us. I mean, we're not like you, Dornish. We don't have the expendables.
Expendable. Well, yeah.
We call them yo folk. That's not. It's not an icy opinion. I'm a yo folk. Please don't expend me.
No, I assure you.
You
in
heard it
fact,
here, everyone.
Yeah,
You're gonna die at the
pretty
Brock next weekend.
Oh, you going to that?
Yeah.
Oh,
He is.
Yeah, you might die.
I have had so many people trying to convince me to go,
You're like,
and
no.
I had
Do it, you cowards. Do it.
it was Angus who placed the Marion or
Yeah,
messaged me the
yeah.
other day, and he was like, "You need to come," and he said this
You
big
do.
long thing about all this stuff. I was like, "No."
All I know is that I know I'm with a mage who has said they will expend as much mana as they can to keep us alive. I've said, because he convinced me to go, and I've said if I die, I will kill you. But I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited to fight some Valorn. I'm also glad there's a lot of Dornish going there. I know some advice I was once given by someone on the field was, if you see a skirmish and you're the only Dornish person, don't go because you won't come back. Because people will not wait for you. Nope. So I'm happy that there's quite a few Dornish going. I've got friends in Navarre. I am praying. Look,
Well,
I'm a virtuous guy.
The last event they did, no one died, and it was. I think because they have to, like, if there's a fair bit of combat at a Empire player event, I think they have to, like, basically say high threat. But sometimes when you see the words high threat, you're just like, nah, it's not that, because I think a lot of the high threat ones. Because I think the past, like, 2 or 3, like, no one's actually died on them.
Yeah, it's high threat, low chance of death.
I kind of feel like if I went, though, I would get cleaved by Angry Navarre, because I've only started recently believing in the Valorn. I do now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably have a cleaved leg and been sacrificed to them so they could have time to get away.
Yeah, or you just, like, as the balloon comes up, Nietzsche's just like, come on, everybody! If we don't believe in them, they can't hurt us.
I don't believe in fairies. I don't believe in
fairies.
fairies.
Oh my God.
Slash venom.
I got told off by the finally got told off by the ambassador for the Valorn.
He's not
for
the
half an hour.
He's not the ambassador
the
for the
advisor.
Valorn.
Sorry. I mean the advisor. I'm just being silly.
Sorry, Robin. I think you got cut off. Were you going to say something?
I just said they have an ambassador.
Oh no, I thought
That would be cool, though, an ambassador to the Valorn.
No, anyway. Yeah, so no, I'm going to Echoes of the Ancients. When this episode comes out, oh no, it's coming out this Friday, so it will be next week. And then we'll do an episode afterwards and we'll find out if I'm dead or not. I am very excited. You should all, you came to Brickeliand. You should definitely. Anyway, Jotun.
I mean, like, going back to accusations, because when we were speaking to them when we were speaking to them before and everything, they seemed to be a little bit like almost disheartened by the fact that the previous event there wasn't really any deaths, and it was meant to be a high threat, and that made me think you're going to make this like super high threat, like, you know, the highest of threats.
All I know it. Oh, go on, Oliver.
You can have a very cool death, because we spoke to spoke to Jamie, Robin, you know what I'm about to say, like, so he gave us a story about how his first character died, and he was like a year 1 E1 character, and his character died at a player event against the Valorn a week before. I'm sure it was like a week before E1. Right.
Oh,
of 1 year. So, but like, this, even though he's like, oh no, but the story ended up being so epic of how the character died, that his character was made a paragon. So.
Oh,
nice.
wow!
Not a paragon. Exemplar.
Exemplar.
No. Paragon? No, exemplar.
Exemplar.
One of the two. Yeah.
Exemplar.
Anyway. Yeah.
Exemplar is you were very fucking virtuous. Paragon is you've gone through the labyrinth.
Oh yeah, no, it was absolutely like. I tell you what, though, because you're right, we were both there. So if you die at this player event, we will tell tales of how we saw your face
terrible you were.
emerged in with the others as
That's
you
not what I want.
slowly rotted
No, I don't want
away.
that.
I have to put you out of your misery myself.
Oh, that'd be great.
I look, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
I couldn't bring myself to go. I was like, I've not put
You're,
all this work into building a guild and then dying at a player
You're
event where there's
all-
nowhere to mourn me.
You're all cowards. That's all
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I'm happy to admit I'm a coward. I have other people to fight for me.
But look at the majority of us here. I think maybe one person's made an interesting decision.
Yeah, look, I was the one. To be fair, I'm the one that's given into peer pressure. Look, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna have some real good stories. It's gonna be interesting at the very least.
Now back to the Jotun.
Yeah, God Christ, Jotun.
But one thing I do think that sets the Jotun apart is they don't actually use battle magic because it's so tricksy and whatnot. Because they're all about honor and giving a straight fight and their martial
good guys,
prowess.
Yeah, they don't need.
Yeah.
To,
Yeah.
they don't need to
This-
use the dark arts to
Get involved with a filthy Eternals? No. Well, actually, they do, but you know.
But it's none of their weaknesses and whatnot. It's all about those strike downs and unstoppables, proper fighting men and women.
I know I'm a big fan of the, as much as we've kind of discussed the Jotun before and discussed them as the kind of the plainest barbarians, but I think there is something that's quite nice about it, of just being like, love me war, love me conquering,
Love me ancestors.
hate me
Yeah, but
Imperials.
But it is appealing. It's like it's plain, but it isn't, because it's like it's that's what's appealing. But maybe it's because of that you don't. I know I've said a couple of times they're good guys, but maybe it is because of that. As the Imperials, you don't feel like you're fighting monsters when you're fighting them sometimes, because they're just like, oh yeah, we're about honor and we want to get, it's about dying, dying the best way possible so you can get through the labyrinth, get the power, whereas the Druge and some of the other nations, barbarian nations that use monsters and things like that, and are using that magic, it feels like you're fighting something otherworldly, so you're like, so I think that's why they maybe feel from the Imperial point of view a little bit vanilla, because I enjoy playing them, but I do get it. Like, I prefer fighting the Druge. I think,
I do think they're the best barbarians to play if you got weak cardio as well, with those lovely line battles. Like, I'm just gonna stay here and poke some Imperials. Don't have to go darting round. It's great.
I think it's a troubadour from House Descenders. I don't know if we can say the name on air, so I won't. But who was I think it was them who was telling us about an honor fight between the Jotun and the Imperials. I think I might be getting this wrong.
yeah. If it's Rion, then he's got plenty of stories. I can't remember that one right now.
Because it might be someone else. I can't remember now.
It sounds like something Rion would say.
It's just because he's told me so many stories, so it's like listening to them. But there's one where it was like, no, I might be getting mixed up. But basically, it was Jotun said to the Imperials, "Hey, let's have a fight. See who's the best. But we'll heal in between. Like, we're not going to kill you." And they just kind of showed up. They said, we'll have another fight. And then when they came down, like, the Jotun were using their healers to get people back up, and they're sending them back. I was like, we're just going to see who's the better fighters. Yeah. And I think it is interesting to just have that kind of like, we hate you. And the Jotun are like, we also hate you, but like, we're not just evil. We're kind of here to take your lands and be more powerful.
Well,
which
exactly. And it's a little bit more of a smarter way of doing things. We'll come to an agreement, even though we're right in the middle of a fight. We'll have a bit of a ceasefire, and we'll sort something out. Whereas you probably wouldn't get that.
At least we've not been turned into wanting to exterminate them like the Druge. We could probably one day have a peace treaty, unlike the Druge, where we're just going to burn everything of yours down.
Yeah. I mean, it would probably. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's where the Empire game, it does seem a little bit like the Total War PC games, where the way you lose those games very quickly is making too many enemies.
Yeah.
You've got to have some friends. If you declare a war on too many people, you lose rapidly. So
I mean, the game started off with everyone except the Grendel at war with the Empire. So we kind of have been there before. We're in a better position than we were when we started, I guess.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, we're probably come to an hour now. I think a good place to maybe kind of round off is if you guys have got any particularly fun battle stories or moments from fighting the Jotun that you can think of.
Or playing as the Jotun.
Yeah, playing as the Jotun.
Or against, whichever.
Robin, you probably got better ones than me. I think, E1. I haven't had like massively exciting monster fights. E1 I've already mentioned because it was a little bit miserable. We were in the woods. We were supposed to be skirmishing, and
Yeah.
we were just walking backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. There was a marsh walker, and I was like, "Oh, cool, there's a monster," but the marsh walker didn't actually do much. It just kind of shuffled around, and because we were so bored, like people were trying to like lure it out to the Imperials, because the Imperials were just like, I think it was like the Marchers, and I think there was the League, some of the League there as well, and they were like in the breach, and we were trying to like figure out how to move this marsh walker. And so we ended up like fighting amongst ourselves on how to actually get this marsh walker moving, because it was being drawn to something, so it was moving very slowly, but it had like 5 refs around it as well, so like, don't get near it. But it seemed to be like it was sort of moving. It wasn't moving towards like sound, because at first everyone was like quiet, 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 and then after like 20 minutes, everyone just started speaking, and it didn't seem to bother. Then we were like, oh, it seems to be going towards people that are moving, but then that wasn't it. And then people were like, oh, it's actually moving towards like fight. Every time a fight broke out, it moved towards. So then people started like pretend fighting. so we were then, this is how meta this got, like layers, it's like Inception. We were like pretending to fight to pretend to fight. That's what we're laughing. Right? And then people would then like just randomly think that they're going to do something and then run in and try and attack it. And then the people that pretend fighting actually started fighting with the other Gara on the other side of it, and that was the whole monster battle for us. And then we went sod it, and then we all just sat down, and the March Walker just sat down and chilled with us. and that was kind of it, So
that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Just a little big washroom, had a little settle that setting down.
Got a friend.
Robin was a completely different part of the battle to I was, so I came back and went, oh, I saw a monster, I saw a Marsh Walker. And she was, oh, how was that? That must have been exciting. I was like, it's all right, It was all right.
Meanwhile, I'm like dripping with sweat after fighting. Like, oh, that's great.
I think going back to EMUs, if you could join them, you'll definitely at least get some combat.
I don't know. E3, you ended
That's
up...
because it was over before we got out.
Yeah,
It was that bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
E2. E2, I can't remember much about it. We were skirmishing, weren't we, Robin? I think we were just, again, that was a lot kind of standing around. E3, that was the one where I went out. I died like 4 or 5 times just right because I abandoned my unit because we had these little unit and people were just like, I wish I put my hand up to like lead it. They're like, oh yeah, who wants to lead this one? And someone put their hand on it. Like, cool. And they had no idea what they were doing. So like the 5 of us were just like, should we just do our own thing? Our commander was like, okay, we're skirmishing. So when I do this, we all run in, and when I run out, and then he just disappeared. He just went off. So we just went off and did our own thing. So I know
I adopted 2 new players. It was great. We actually skirmished.
So I then just ran. So I just ran up and down that large donut that was forming, and I just played a game where I tried to see how many of the nations I could fight, how quickly. So I would like jump in, fight a freeborn, get a few hits in with my new greatsword that I bought. I went and then jump out and then run up to the marchers and then do that and then up to the league and then and it was over so quick. And then E4, I ran at a load of winter markers. I died and I spent the entire rest of that battle.
I'm sorry, okay? I didn't think you'd be out the whole time. I saw you die. I didn't want to waste a on you. I thought you would come back.
Yeah, E4 was just like, I just wanted to go home because it was like it was the Saturday at E4, so I got put into the respawn, and we were like I was one of the first 5 people to get to the respawn.
Oh, that's gutting.
Saturday battle, and I was like, oh, but I thought, oh, we'll get, because after E3 and E2, I respawn quite quickly at the start of the battle. I'm like, well, it's the start of the battle. There's only 5 of us here. We'll respawn quickly. And then more and more people start coming until we were in like
for the Imperials.
Yeah,
really.
until we were like there was like a block, and that's the thing, because they're like, oh, no more respawns. That means it's going bad for the Empire. So I'm standing there, and at this point I'm just like, oh, I just want to go home at this point. Then these Imperials came and started spawn campus.
I remember that.
But there was like, oh, were you in that spot? Were you in that spawn?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So because that was later on. So I was in that spawn bit when there was like 5 of us, right? So when they started spawn camping, and you knew this if you were there was like 100 of us, and they was spawn camping, and there was like 10 of them, and to the point where the crew had to be like, it's not technically not allowed, and it's not even the fact that you're metagaming doing this, but if these all spawn, you're going to die.
I kind of wish the refs had just shrugged, turned around, said, "Right, go on,
go." Yes,
just 100 orcs.
Last 5 minutes of the battle. Go on, go get them.
Yeah, have your fun.
Yeah. So that's all of my stories from the entire year.
Listeners, let's pray to the Lark gods that Oliver has a better monstering year this year. The man needs it.
I want to join the skirmish. I want to be an actual monster. I want to be an actual
right?
monster.
Yeah.
I want to ride a land shark.
I want to like. I said that's what I want to do. Right.
Have you guys heard about the sock puppet Drake? Me and Morgan want to see them bring the Drake.
I didn't put the picture up. They obviously dragons don't exist anymore in the Empire, but drakes do, which are these massive fucking draconic creatures which can't fly. A few years ago, one ate the Marcher Egregore. Feet first. So like they were getting bitten by this dragon, and then literally, obviously, the crew inside pulled the Egregore into the mouth, and
That's
it got
hilarious.
eaten. And I'm like,
I
want to fight this thing, like just to see this massive thing, just like this head coming out and trying to eat people. And I saw the Fizz rep for it, amazing.
Hopefully now we're out of post-COVID practice year, we can get into the cool, interesting monsters again.
I thought Fortune Souls they were cool. Anyway, sorry, Robert, have you got any good battle stories?
Yeah, well, I mean, E1 first time monstering, obviously. That is when I became a runner. Because I had no armor on, didn't really know what I was doing, and it was my job to run from one side of the battlefield to the other, which was great because I got to meet Andy Connell.
Nice.
Because I had to run up and give him information. And in running to him, I had to run past all the Imperial archers. I was so new to it. I didn't really know. And I was just like, just keep running. And these arrows are going all around me.
So
I'm just like, this is amazing.
I wish we had film footage of you just doing your running action there. It's adorable.
Well, I'm glad there's no film footage because my memory has 1,000 arrows as I run through it. In real life, there was maybe one. So
I'm very much picturing like a kind of like in my head, it's like there's like World War I things where it's like there's someone running and mines are blowing up. That's very much
what was in my head.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, that was so that was great at E1. We had a lot of fun. It was this very really uplifting, positive environment that we had because the person that was in charge of us, like she made a circle of everybody and she did special thank yous to everyone and got everyone clapping and cheering. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so uplifted right now. E2. Oliver, what happened? I can't even remember
That's the one we were skirmishing. That was the one.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah,
that caused them to brief us at E3, being like, "Okay, everyone needs to tone down the Marcher
stuff, comedy Marcher bullshit."
Yeah. So E2, like Oliver said, I ended up with with a couple of new players with me, and it was great fun. And we just we had a lot of fun taunting the Imperials. I can't remember anything really that unique happening there.
It was quite chilled. That was a lot of sitting down, I think, at that E2 one and just kind of chilling.
Yeah, it was quite chilled. E3. Oh my gosh, E3.
I love
E3
love the kind of like the comparison here of Oliver's like, bored, sitting in the trees, Robert like, E1, amazing. E2, it was pretty good. E3. Whereas Oliver's like forgettable mostly.
Oh my god. E3 though is my first time fighting actually properly with the Jotun because we got all the Imperials into a donut. That was I still feel to this point, and also I'm sorry, Wintermark. I'm pretty sure Wintermark put themselves in a donut. I don't know what was happening. I don't know if it was a tactic. I don't know what happened.
I hope it wasn't. I really hope it wasn't a tactic.
I really want Wintermark to just march in the field next year and just instantly get into the donut for safety. And then
That's what it
move like a
felt
Death
like.
Star.
It was just like it was interesting. I ended up like one of the Jotun grabbed my shoulders and pulled me in front of them. Went, go on then, and I was like, yeah, I get a fight. And I went down, and having a Jotun lean down and say, "Stay with me," was quite interesting. So I had Jotun use "Stay with me" on me, which was quite cool. E4 though. E4 was Rosie's last event.
Rest in
Oh,
peace. May her journey through the labyrinth be swift.
Yeah, I know, right? E4. The funniest thing about E4 was actually before any of the fighting started, and this was one of these. You might have actually been there when this was happening. We were all asked by, so we're all. Oh no, you wouldn't have been because we were all Yagara, and there was, but or Jotun, they're in charge of us. And he asked us all to stand in rows of 6. Could we do this? Like, could we?
That was the hardest part.
It was the hardest thing. There was a row of 3, a row of 2,
Mark
a
just
row of
can't count
7,
6.
and there was this poor Jotun be like, 6. No, 6. So he was like, you move here, and they went, okay. So then 2 people moved. But no, just one of you move.
Oh,
This
my
lasted so
God.
long. And then we finally got into the woods and we were ready. And he was like, everybody take 5 steps forward. We were like, no, we only just started 6. We don't know 5. And we were like, can we have a school for the Yagara, please? Could the Jotun
You
organize
need to fund
this?
your education more, Mr. Jotun.
And then Rosie died. We had some interesting things in the woods, and on her way out, she was fighting someone and she got knocked down and she wasn't dead. She went down to the ground and this marcher came over out of character. I knew who it was and he knew who I was. And he came over and he was like, I started making a load of jokes, but I wasn't dead. So I cleaved his leg.
I think that's beautiful.
I could have reached his chest. I'm not a dick. So I cleaved his leg. And as I cleaved his leg, someone killed me. I was like, ah! This big like death scene next to him.
Oh, crap.
And that's it. That was Rosie.
That's a
Rosie's coming
beautiful
next year,
leading
but
point.
she's gone.
Oh, well, I'm very sad that Rosie's passed. You've inspired me to make my put some effort into my Jotun character for sure.
Well,
Me and
I think
Jim.
we're definitely going to be fighting Jotun because I think there's like thousands of them somewhere, isn't there? Have they not just? Where is it? They're at. They've literally after all the wins. I think a massive force showed up.
Yeah, no, I need to read
What
from
was it called?
Lythaven?
Yeah, I don't know. But allegedly,
It's not done.
Yeah, allegedly, like
Sounds like not done.
yeah, thousands of Jotun showed up in one territory. So we'll definitely be. I'm pretty sure we'll definitely be fighting as Jotun or fighting Jotun next year.
And finishing off the Druge, hopefully.
Hopefully I can bring back Grim, Gram, and Grom.
Oh, are they your characters?
Yeah, well, they're my brothers. I've got Grim, me, and 2 other jackdaws that are Gram and Grom.
I seem to remember the EMU are a member of a Jotun household called House de Orc. That's where the Dornish EMU is from. So we're all nobles of House de Orc. But I feel like I need to fill out my character a little bit more.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you very much for coming on, guys.
Is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Yeah. We have a little podcast called To Having to Roll, where we do much the same as this, really, don't we, Robin? Talk about we pretend that we know what we're talking about when it comes to
we know what we're talking about. Shoot.
I mean, I call you the professional Dornish. We've got the amateur here.
we have been called the Faces of Dawn, so you know.
Oh,
Ego.
you can't. Yeah, well, thanks very much for coming on, guys. Faces of Dawn. Apparently, you can't tell 2 changelings that are
the Faces of Dawn. I mean,
you cannot do that.
It's Having to Roll. It's Oliver and Robin. So someone actually last year came up to me and was like, "Oh, what are your actual names? Because we just call you the couple." You know, and we say, "Oh, the couple have posted this. The couple have posted that." I like that. I like that.
I like the couple. Yeah. I mean, we do have names, but the couple's pretty cool.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, and we will see you in a field somewhere. And thanks everyone for listening. And we'll be back next week with I don't know what yet.
Oh, we'll wing it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks everyone listening. Bye, friends.
See ya.